This is Middlesex Moments. I'm Jonathan Daube, Interim President of Middlesex Community College, and my guest today is Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro, and we're taping this right on campus with faculty and staff as the quiet, obedient, and agreeing with everything we say audience. My first question, Congresswoman, if you had $10 million you could just give to Middlesex Community College, how would you want us to spend it?
Well, first of all, Dr. Daube, it's wonderful to be back at Middlesex Community College. I was here in early February, had a chance and opportunity to speak with you, but to be very honest, most importantly, to listen to the students who attend Middlesex and hear from them about their own goals and their aspirations and what the opportunities that Middlesex offers to them and how we can cooperate at the federal level in that effort, which gets me to
$10 million.
$10 million. Well, I know you're going to hold me to saying that you're going to deliver $10 million. I guess it's
private dollars. You have a foundation. You've just given us $10 million.
Well,
how would you want us to spend it?
I want you to be able to provide what you do here with more limited funds, and that's opportunity for the range and the diversity of students that you have here. I was impressed the day that I was here. You know, many people think that about colleges, and they're thinking about, you know, young people who are 19 years old or, you know, just entering into college and potentially into the workforce. But the range and the age group of the people who were here went from 19 years old to 57, 58 years old, people who self-select. And to take those funds and to provide it the opportunity to get education. Education is the great equalizer. What you do here is that you say to these folks, your God-given talent, your pursuit of excellence in education is what's going to make you succeed. Our resources are always limited. But if one should pick an area where we ought to focus our time, our effort, and our resources, is education.
Do you think community colleges spend their money well?
Well, look, I can't...
Not this one particularly.
Well, it would appear to me, now I've been in my district, I've been here, on a number of occasions at Middlesex. I went to Gateway. I've been there several times. It's right in New Haven.
Do they have a college in New Haven?
Yes, we do. Okay. Yes, we do. We have Gateway. And as a matter of fact, I was at Gateway yesterday where they were hosting an event for small businesses on what we could get from the federal level as well from the SBA.
And you've been to Naugatuck Valley,
and
too.
I've been to Naugatuck. I watch what the community colleges do, and I am very impressed with the kind of educational opportunity, skills training that you are providing to people.
Well, I think it's important for us to hear it. This is Middlesex Moments. I'm Jonathan Daube, and we'll be back momentarily. This is Middlesex Moments. I'm Jonathan Daube, Interim President of Middlesex Community College, and my guest today is Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro, and we've been talking about community colleges, but I want to switch a little bit, learn a bit about you as a politician. What's the biggest single mistake you've ever made in your political career? I should tell our listeners that the faculty and staff are listening to this, and that's why you hear the laughter.
One thinks over. First of all, it was a great decision to run 21 years ago. I was
that wasn't a mistake. That doesn't count.
Very, very. I hope the public doesn't think that was a mistake. But it was. I'd never run for office before, so I was concerned about launching into it, and I did. And you do it with some fear and trepidation, but the best decision I ever made in terms of becoming involved because of the opportunity that the job affords to become an advocate for people. One tries to take a look over the years if you're looking at votes that you've taken, and there are thousands of votes, and would you do some differently than you have? And the answer to that is always yes. That maybe you didn't have enough information, or maybe you didn't speak out loudly enough of about an issue. So you think through those things in the course of the votes. And sure, there are a number of occasions.
But let me tie you down a little bit. I mean, every politician is a human being. You must have made some mistakes in the last 20 years that perhaps you're willing to share with us. tell us just one dramatic mistake you really wish you had not made.
Well, I think if I think about this in a legislative way, in terms of votes, right after 9/11, with the fear of what had happened to us and the loss of 3,000, the leap into some of the legislation that was passed at that time, in my view, we should have all had more consideration about the balance between our national security and our constitutional rights and our rights to privacy. And I think that I could have been more, when I say thoughtful about the process, is to think more hard-nosed about what we were getting into. We've had the opportunity to go back, and specifically, I talk about the Patriot Act and so forth, which I think in a number of regards overstepped its bounds. But we've had the opportunity to redress that and to make changes. We still have more changes to go, because I think above all what we need to pride ourselves on is that we do have a balance between maintaining our national security and recognizing the constitutional rights of the people of this country. That's bedrock, and we should never really move away from that and not get sidetracked in those issues. I will tell you, though, on this end, because I reflected, people asked me if I made a mistake in not voting for the war in Iraq. I did not vote for the war in Iraq, and I'm proud of that vote. I did vote to go to Afghanistan because I thought that's where the war emanated from. I think as a nation we have made a mistake in Iraq and by not paying attention to Afghanistan. And I just have, when I say recently, I arrived back from a trip to Afghanistan. What's today? Today is...
I think it's Friday.
I think it's Friday. I think I got back on Tuesday.
Wednesday.
I got back on Wednesday.
This will probably be aired on a Wednesday, so let's not confuse people.
Okay.
But you came back from...
I was recently back from...
Recently, yes.
From Afghanistan. But you think through the votes that you have made and the directions, and if circumstances were different. But I think the biggest regret is moving as fast as we did after 9/11 in terms of potentially curtailing people's individual constitutional rights.
So let's move to today. What is as you head back to Washington next week, what's the most difficult issue that you're grappling with?
Right. Well, I'm going to talk about two things. First and foremost, I think what the public is overwhelmingly concerned with is the economy,
of course,
and jobs. And how we deal with reducing the deficit. And I think it is our obligation to talk about how we do try to create jobs and drive the economy for the future in terms of creating new jobs for the future, new revenue streams, dealing with the deficit. As an adjunct to that, we're dealing with a budget and a budget resolution. We still do not have a budget for 2011. Let alone working on a budget for 2012. In that budget for 2011, one of my big concerns is the cuts that are going to be made to education, which I had the opportunity to discuss here with your students, and particularly with regard to Pell Grants. A proposal at this moment is to cut the Pell Grant $845 to absolutely eliminate the supplemental education opportunity grants, to cut back on TRIO, Gear Up, and other educational programs which I believe are bedrock. Now, somebody will say to me, well, isn't there anything that you want to cut? What do you want to do to reduce the deficit? We can go down a number of roads to reduce the deficit immediately today, and I'm a believer, because there's consolidation of some of the educational programs. I can support that effort. But if you want to take a look, we need to look at what are the kinds of special interest tax subsidies that we are providing today. For instance, $40 billion in a tax subsidy to the oil industry. That's right now today. We provide that. As far as I can see, not an industry that is hurting financially. On the other hand, your students, other students are hurting financially. That $845 is the difference to some students of being able to get and move forward with their education. Some may not be able to do it at all because it's just too big a cut in that Pell Grant. 9 million students will be impacted by that $845 cut. If we are serious about creating jobs, of turning the economy around and reducing the deficit, then you don't look to cut education costs. You look to dealing with the subsidies that are there. I'll give you 2 or 3 others. We provide multinational corporations almost $8 billion to help them take their jobs overseas. We get $8 billion in agricultural subsidies to agribusiness in this country. That's not something that we have to do. There are a number of areas, I just mentioned 2 or 3, which we can cut back on, help to reduce the deficit. Do not take it away from families with children, people who are working hard, trying to study, try to improve their education, get skills so that they can be economically viable for the future.
Do those 9 million students that you're talking about, do they have a political voice, do you think?
They will have a political voice if they stand up and be heard. I have been encouraged. I'm encouraged presidents and interim presidents at educational institutions and faculty.
Let's not get personal now.
Yes, I will. And faculty and students and their families to stand up, make their voices heard. Let people in the Congress know that they are in jeopardy. They are electorally in jeopardy if they put the opportunities for these folks in jeopardy for the future.
As we move towards the end of this segment, Congresswoman, what do you do for fun?
I love to cook.
Ah.
And I'm all right. I'm
and
good.
interim presidents like to eat.
Okay, you're on. I'm a good cook. I will say that. I am a good cook.
What do you cook?
Well, I mostly cook Italian food. I think it's, and great at it's called pasta now. We called it macaroni when I was growing up. So I'm good at, I am. And I had my mother, who was 97 years old and going strong, she doesn't cook anymore, but was outstanding. So I learned from just watching her. So I don't deal with recipes. A little of this, a little of that. You mix it up and you taste it. And if
do you cook for large groups or family?
Both. For both. There's a tradition in Italian households where we have Christmas Eve with a large dinner with a lot of fish, etc. I usually have about 50 people for dinner Christmas Eve, and I do all the cooking.
Okay. Next year it'll be 51. This is Middlesex Moments. I'm Jonathan Daube, and we'll be back This is Middlesex Moments. I'm Jonathan Daube, interim president of Middlesex Community College, and my guest today is Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro. And I have a tough question for you. Almost all our students are smart. I mean that. But many of them are stressed. They may not have the skills they need. They don't have the money. Their families are struggling. Some of them are listening to you right now. Talk to them.
First, let me just say that I have a tremendous admiration for the efforts that you have undertaken, especially to those of you who self-select. So many young people follow a course. They'll graduate high school, they'll go on to college. They may have the wherewithal to do that and, from their families, or they go on to a 4-year liberal arts college. And
that's fine.
And that's wonderful, and they have an opportunity for success because we know today.
By the way, is Yale University accredited? I have to ask you.
We'll have to check. I'll check with Rick Levin, right?
Yeah.
But they'll do that. Look, I went to Marymount College in Tarrytown, New York, and been able to go there. It's not everyone's experience, nor is it everyone's desire. Education has got to be that opportunity for education has got to come from different venues in different ways to meet your needs. And I would just say to you that, and maybe it sounds easy, there are difficult times, there is a lot of stress. But if there's one accomplishment, it is getting that education, the vistas that it opens up, the new opportunities for success for yourself and for your family are just beyond description. My father came to this country as an Italian immigrant. He went to the 7th grade. My mother went to high school nights. She went to work in the sweatshops. Their goal was for their daughter to have an education. Because of that sacrifice, I'm able to do what I do today. Education is the key to that success. What we need to do together is to make sure that we are engaged, and I say we, at the federal level, of being able to provide the resources and the opportunity. Your job is to seize that opportunity, to make the most of it. And the stories that I have heard from community college students give me a sense of optimism about the quality of students that are in our community colleges. You balance your life and you balance your education. And as difficult as that may be sometimes, I just say to you, hang in there, do it. The rewards and the benefits are just unfathomable.
So I'm sure some of the people who are listening to us are perhaps in their late 30s, 40s, even 50s. Well, they all sound young to me. And they don't have money, and the thought of taking even one course is a little scary. Do you think people understand that they can come to any community college just to explore, to hang out, to talk with people? It doesn't cost them a penny, preferably during the day or the evening rather than at night, but the colleges are open most hours. Mm-hmm. How can we persuade people that this is a reasonable future for them?
Well, then we both have a responsibility and an obligation. You do, and your faculty, and the other community colleges need to. The outreach needs to be doubled, tripled, so that people know what those, that they can come, that they can explore, and it's not as scary an endeavor as you believe it could be, but there are opportunities that you can take advantage of. From my point of view, which is I'm trying to do in this debate, is to extol the virtues of community colleges and talk to the people who are just muddle-headed, in my view, who would want to cut the Pell Grant, $845, remove the supplemental education opportunity grants, take away the opportunity for people to get mentored, to be able to go on to college, to gear up in TRIO. And I haven't mentioned on this program what they're willing to do to early childhood education or K through 12 education. It's a full-scale assault on education. I view my responsibility very seriously as to be out there and helping to lead the charge and understanding the value of education and skills training in order to, it's for the educational future. There isn't another country, China, India, in Europe, that is saying, let's cut back on education, which is what we are saying at this moment in the United States of America. It's wrong. We need to encourage people that these doors are open and that we have reasonable resources at the federal and the state level, whether it's through education programs or through job training programs, to make it as easy, not as easy as possible. It's tough because it's a cooperative relationship. We've got to, people have to co-pay, if you will, in this effort. But the rewards, we know today that the key to economic success, the kind of job you have, the kind of salary you can make, is tied directly to education. Those without will suffer.
As you can hear when you listen to my accent, I was not exactly born in the United States, so I know whereof you speak. When I go back to Europe, and I've traveled in Africa and India also, people are interested in two aspects of American education. They're interested in the very, very high-level prestigious graduate schools, Yale and Harvard and so on. And they're interested in the community colleges. And they're not terribly interested in anything in between. And they want China, Great Britain, France, Germany, India, they all want to have community colleges the way we have them here. Why do you think there's this attempt to cut? It's at the state level, it's at the federal level. Why is there this discouragement at this point of community colleges right here when it's one of the things we do best?
Well, it is, and look, it's hard for me to answer for others, but you know, the sense that community colleges are a stepchild of the education system is a mistake. It's a bad mistake. I now are dealing with people. I can't answer on the state level, but I can from the federal level. There is this notion that all you need to do is to cut spending and non-military spending, and that's what is going to allow us to succeed to reduce the deficit. Again, it's wrong-headed. There are a number of other ways in which we can move at this. We obviously should get rid of programs that are duplicative or that are ineffectual, but you can't tell me, which is the assault, early childhood education, serious cutbacks in Head Start, serious cutbacks on K through 12, including special education for children, and then higher education. That, to me, speaks of ignorance, to be very honest with you, of not understanding the value of early childhood, K to 12 education, and conversation in higher education. I want to mention one more point to you, which I think is unbelievable. I mentioned to you that I was in Afghanistan. I had the opportunity to sit down with General Caldwell and his team as part of a NATO training operation. Do you know what they are training Afghans on? Literacy.
I'm smiling as you speak.
And
yep.
I'm saying to myself as I'm sitting there, and they say that is a key. Not a military footprint, but education, and particularly the education of girls, because there's no opportunity there for girls, or very limited opportunity. We're teaching them literacy so that they will not be victims of violence and corruption, and that they can make their way. Now, I take a look at what the present majority has outlined for the budget. Every single literacy program that was part of the federal budget has been either lessened or eliminated. We're teaching literacy to Afghans and removing it from our own budget. It tells you something about people who have no understanding of how great nations are developed.
And I should say to the people who are listening, even if you don't think it's the right time for whatever reason to go to a community college, you should at least scope it out. You should go and find out what it's like, and if you're a bit nervous, get over that. And then maybe in a year or semester or whenever you're ready to take the
chance.
I have one other question for you. You obviously have an enthusiasm for life and for politics, but many people have become cynical. Why should I vote?
If you don't, you have no say in the process. People need to understand the power that they have. I love what I do. I'm blessed with what I do. I have a chance to advocate on behalf of the people who put me in. This is a great institution that I work for, not because of what it does every day.
You mean the Congress, not Middlesex Community College?
Well, Middlesex College as well. That's you're going to extol those virtues. I will. As you should. But it's the potential of the institution that I work for that makes it great. Witness, Medicare,
potential,
Social Security,
which is what community colleges are
all
about.
Yep. That's right. It's the potential. I said Medicare, Social Security, GI Bill, helping after the Second World War for people to go to school, to buy a home, so that they could succeed economically. Also,
and you know that we have a veterans center right here at Middlesex Community College.
And it's especially seeing veterans in the last several days. What we need to do is to help them when they come back is critical. But my point is that we also, in terms of we've made opportunity available, that goes for education. At one point, would be just the purview of the rich. We were able to make sure that families, middle-class families, could send their kids to school, that others could take advantage of an education. That includes the community colleges. That opportunity is there. We need to expand on it, and we need to encourage people to explore it, as you say. Take a chance, because its rewards are overwhelming.
Right. Well, this has been Middlesex Moments. and my guest has been Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro. I wish you were a little more enthusiastic. Take a look at our website, mxcc.comnet.edu. I'm Jonathan Daube, Interim President of Middlesex Community College. Have a good day.
Thank